Welcome to the channel and welcome back if you've watched before. Now, if you've come across this video, you're obviously having a problem with the brakes on your motorbike. Like this one here, this is a 125, but it doesn't matter if it's a 125 or a 600cc like I've got over behind the camera there. The principle's the same. If you've got hydraulic brakes, they all work the same. So they're all gonna have the same symptoms and problems, which is what we're gonna try and sort out today. Now on this bike, we've got quite a simple problem. The brakes work absolutely fine. They stop, no problem at all. However, there's a squeaking noise on the rear brake and it's constantly humming, almost like the brake's engaged all of the time. So we need to just have a look at that and see if we can get to the bottom of it. I think it's going to be an easy fix. So I'm going to show you guys that it's not that difficult to take the brake apart and give it a bit of a clean, and that should sort the problem out. As a disclaimer, if you're not confident on working on the brakes or you don't feel like you're confident, please don't give it a go. Take it to a bike shop and let them have a look. It could be something really simple like we're going to do today, but it could be something more severe. Your brake calipers could need pulling apart and completely resurfacing, and that's a whole different job, and that's something I wouldn't recommend anybody to do unless they've either done it before or they're confident, because really the brakes on a bike, you do not want to get them wrong. You could leave the oil in for 5 years, leave your air filter, don't service it, that's up to you. The brakes have to be done properly and they really do need looking after. Right, let's do the rear one first, and all this is going to be done without draining any of the fluid, so we haven't got to re-bleed the brakes or do anything complicated like that. We're just going to take that unit off and give it a clean. So I know I've got two bolts down here, so that's the main bolts that hold this caliper against the bracket. This is the bracket here that's connected to the wheel. It's just that part I want to take off, just the caliper. So let's get those two bolts undone, and then I'll show you the two slide pins. So in this case, I've got a 12mm spanner, which takes both of those bolts off. And now in this case, that top bolt's actually hidden behind the shock absorber here, which isn't ideal, but it's not impossible. So I'm going to use a spanner on that one, and I might have to give it a bit of force because it will be tight. So that 12mm spanner is going to go on there. Then I'm just going to give that a reel. There we go. That wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. And then that's it. So we're going to take those two bolts out, and that should let the caliper lift away. So now those two bolts that hold the caliper on are undone. Let's just take that caliper off. That should just slide away from the disc. And that actually felt a little bit too tight on the disc for me. It shouldn't be that tight. It should be quite an easy job to get it off. So again, it tells me that it's binding somehow. So if I tip this caliper upside down, you can see there's a bracket here which holds it to the bike. And that should nice and freely slide in and out, and it doesn't. That caliper is tight. But you can see there's that movement of the pins which allows that caliper to slide side to side when it's all bolted on. That's too tight for me, so we're going to take the brake pads out, get this bracket off, oil it all up and put it back together, and that should solve our problem with the rear brake. Now every bike is different the way you take the pads out. It's a very basic service job. So you should be able to find it in your service manual or go online and work out how to get your brake pads out, because it will differ. In this case, I've got two pins with two Allen bolts at the front. They run through the caliper. As soon as I take those out, my pads will drop out. But yours may be different, so just consult your manual. I'm going to get these pads out by removing these two pins. And there we go. There's the two brake pads themselves. And for now, I can't see a huge amount wrong with those. They've got a little bit of meat left on them, so they're not going to be changed. I'm going to reuse them. And up inside the caliper there, I'm going to leave it in for now. But there's a piece of metal in there, and that's spring loaded, and that just stops the pads rattling around when you press the brakes. So I'm just going to give this all a clean in here. I'm going to take this bracket forwards. That's what I really wanted to get at. That's what allows that caliper to slide side to side. So we will clean that up and give it an oil. And there's the front one there. Again, it's got plenty of oil in it, so it shouldn't be stiff. It really is worth getting one of these magnetic trays. They're brilliant. They hold all the bits and pieces nice and tight. Got this for about £3 at Lidl, so yeah, what a bargain. Keeps everything in the same place. It's really, really important that you don't knock that brake lever or press it in any way, shape or form, because what that'll do is these pistons will then come forwards. They've got nothing to hit against, and they can potentially pop out. And then you've got a big job to re-bleed all the brakes and potentially change all the seals in there. So important that you do not touch that brake lever when the caliper is in this position. Now I'm going to clean the caliper with some brake and clutch cleaner. Now when we're cleaning the caliper, we want to avoid spraying any of that clutch and brake cleaner around that part of the piston, because there's a rubber seal there, and same on the other one. First one's a dust seal, and inside there's another rubber seal which stops all the oil leaking out. Now clutch and brake cleaner can be quite corrosive to rubber, so we want to avoid this area here with excessive spray. So what I like to do is just spray a bit on the cloth or the tissue itself, and then just use that to wipe the caliper over, get all the crud and the brake dust off it. Just makes it look nicer and it makes it a lot easier to put back together. A little bit on the cloth and just wipe inside there nice and carefully. It doesn't have to be spotless. We're not restoring it back to brand new, but it does want to be clean. There you go, that looks a whole lot better just after giving it a really basic wipe, getting rid of all that brake dust and crud. So now we're over at the bench, it's a good idea to give the components that come off without any rubbers on them a good old clean. So this is one of the brake pads. Again, we want to make sure that stays nice and clean. I'm just going to give those a wipe on the back. And before these go back in the bike, what we want to do is just apply a bit of copper grease, copper slip on the back of these pads, and that just helps them seat in nicely, stops them rattling around. So this is this stuff here. Quite simply, just smear a tiny amount. So we've got all our components here ready to go back on. That was nice and easy to take those off and give them all a bit of a clean up. Caliper's hanging there, just ready to go straight back on. Again, that's cleaned. And I'm going to use some just general purpose grease. It's just a general purpose grease that I use for everything. And that's what I'm going to put on the pins before I slide them back in. So let's do that now. I'm just going to smear a good amount around there. Don't worry about your fingers. And we've got the second slide pin here. Again, I'm not using all technical terms for these things. I'm trying to keep it simple. Right, so the last thing to come out was the pads. So they're going to be the first thing that go back in. So I'm going to hold the caliper upside down. So it just makes it a bit easier. Put that first pad in there. And then the other pad on that side. I want to put my locking nuts back in, which we took out, which hold the pads. So they go right through, all the way through the holes on the pads and out the other side. Can be quite fiddly because there is a spring-loaded bracket in there. There we go. That went on a lot easier than it came off. So I've just got to put the two retaining bolts in. They were quite tight before, so I'm going to put a bit of effort into getting those nuts back on. Going to have a quick wipe of the disc because I've had my greasy mitts all over it, so I'm just going to give that a quick wipe down. I'm going to give the brake pedal a couple of pumps first because we have pulled those pistons back and we need to get them back in their set position. So for the first couple of times when you press the pedal, it'll feel like there's nothing there, but the pressure will build back up again quite quickly. There we go. There we go, that's so much better. That caliper's now not binding on the brakes whatsoever. That's running nice and freely, so. Well, I hope that short video's helped someone out there. If you've got a really weird squeak on your brake and you can see that your brake pads are okay and the brakes work all right, but there's an annoying noise there, that could be the cause of it. And that's a really easy fix. It doesn't take a lot of tools, a lot of effort. You need a couple of bits from Halfords, a bit of copper slip, but you could do that yourself at home. You're not doing anything real major or technical, just taking the brake caliper off, read your instructions on your manual for your bike, and that will give you the sequence to take the caliper off, take the pads out and put them back in as if you were changing the pads for new ones. And the only real extra I did on there, other than a simple brake pad change, was oil those two pins up for the bracket so that the caliper can slide nicely backwards and forwards, which I think was the problem on here. So we won't know until we take it out for a ride in a couple of days' time. And I will come back to you in a future video to let you know that that works, but I'm pretty sure that that's going to be all that was wrong with it. So give it a go. And if it doesn't work, you've lost nothing, then you can take it to the shop. But yeah, nice easy fix. So I hope it helps. See you guys in the next one. Cheers.